What's up, guys? Welcome to another video. My name is Jonathan Shane at the Keto Road. I am a functional nutritional therapy practitioner specializing in metabolic health and women's hormones. Today we're going to be talking about if you're in menopause, why the keto carnivore diet may not be working for you. So I got asked this question. I was on the low carb cruise speaking at a talk. If you want to see that talk, it's up here in the corner. Joe and Rachel, two crazy ketos, did a great job of recording the entire presentation. Someone asked me, well, what about women in menopause? And I briefly cover this in the talk, but the thing about talks is they're only 40 minutes. You're trying to cover an array of topics and consolidate them into precise points so that people can apply them practically in their daily lives. And so you don't really get to get into like the nuance sometimes of like age, seasons of life, and things like that. So today I want to talk about what's going on in menopause, how that affects a ketogenic carnivore diet, and things you can do to get the most out of your ketogenic diet without having to completely walk away from it, as some women have had to do in the past. So in menopause, what's happening is your ovaries overall are stopping. They're not working. They're going into retirement, as you can say, for lack of a better term. They're not processing any more eggs. They're not dropping eggs into your uterus anymore. Your cycle is stopping. A lot of things are changing. I think menopause is a beautiful season of life for any woman. I think that there's a lot of fear-mongering around it. There's a lot of negative talk around it. But it's just it's a time of your womanhood. It's the next chapter of your womanhood. And you're just going into a more matured body, truly. And so the positives of that is obviously you don't have to deal with the cycle anymore. PMS symptoms go out of the door. Things like that you don't have to worry about. You don't have to worry about getting fear of getting pregnant. Things like that, right? Cons. There's some cons to this. Okay, so on a physiological level, when your body stops, your ovaries stop working, your adrenal glands pick up the slack, testosterone production, hormone management, things like that. They're already stressed out because they already produce a lot of your testosterone anyways. Norepinephrine, epinephrine, cortisol, corticosteroids, all that stuff. Your adrenal glands are holding all of that together because your HPG axis, your hypothalamus, pituitary, and gonad axis, is no longer functioning like it normally did. And so your adrenals, your HPA axis, which is your hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal axis, your stress hormone axis, is picking up the slack of your sex hormone endocrine system as well. And so because of that, there is added stress. Right now, one of the positives, we'll come back to positives real quick, is now you rotate more on a 24-hour schedule like a man does. This makes it easier to dictate how you're going to feel. Not necessarily during the transition of menopause, but once you're in menopause, once you're over a year without a cycle and you're in menopause and your body starts to level out, it's much easier to dictate your moods. It's much easier to feel pretty consistent even day to day. You might feel evenly horrible if there's things you haven't looked at, blood lab, made sure that your hormones, maybe HRT, maybe a new naturopathic approach, right? Maybe a natural supplement, maybe different kind of foods, nutrition, things like that. But you still feel pretty even day to day. So that's a good thing. The bad thing is that we have to think about that as it relates to a ketogenic carnivore diet. Now, some women, they're already in menopause when they go from a standard American diet to a keto carnivore diet. And so it makes them feel really good, right? Some women are keto carnivore before they transition into menopause. Both of those, though, what can happen is the added stress of your adrenals dealing with that, dealing with life. We've talked about this physiological insulin resistance phenomenon in women. And so for some women, that can add up and stack on top of each other, and you get this raging cortisol effect, which over time, instead of healing your body, starts to create this negative hormonal response, this hormonal response that backfires, right? You start getting increased cortisol, increased elevated baseline blood sugar, increased elevated insulin, and over time you start to develop insulin resistance internally, even though you're not ingesting any exogenous carbohydrates. Something I've dealt with over and over and over and over and over and over again. So that's where it can go wrong, is where the stress of you being in menopause or going through menopause puts you over the edge from an endocrine system perspective and starts to negatively impact things like that. You're going to see that come out in the form of achy joints, hot flashes, lack of sleep, thyroid downregulation, weight gain on the exact same amount of food, lack of activity and energy production, mental chronic fatigue, things like that. It'll start to manifest itself in some really negative and detrimental ways. So then what's the answer, right? Because we don't want to get rid of the ketogenic diet. We want ketones. We want animal proteins. We want meat. We don't get rid of any of that. Problem is we don't talk about it like we're about to talk about it. Most of the time it's either you're all carnivore and all keto, or you need to go eat another diet, right? Like there's no in between. And I'm telling you that you can get the most out of ketones and out of animal proteins and animal complete amino acid complexes and proteins. And also keep your hormones balanced and more regulated. You can get both. I know. Mind blow, but you can. How do you do it? So the best way for a woman that is going through menopause or is postmenopause that is noticing these symptoms, it's important. You may not need this. Now you may feel like you've always felt and you want to try this and see if you feel better. You might not. If you're already experiencing those negative symptoms we discussed earlier, this may be for you. I generally put women on an either TKD or a CKD diet depending on their lifestyle, what's easier for them day to day, etc. We'll talk about the pros and cons real quick. So a TKD is a targeted ketogenic diet. That's where day to day your carbs are less than 50 grams total, okay? But on the days you train, you're going to have 40 to 50 grams of total carbs on top of your daily allotment on days you train. So days you train, your carbs will be total more like 90 to 100. So you'll have your 50 you always have, or at least that's what you want to stay under, but you'll have an intentional 40 to 50 immediately post-workout. This might be in the form of fruit or sweet potato with some chicken, or maybe it's some sweet potato powder with your protein shake, maybe your keto chow, like whatever. However you want to get it in where it's easy for you to eat, you're not overthinking it, things like that. The reason why TKD is really good is because it changes things up. Things don't become mundane and routine, but also you get the most out of the carbohydrates. Not only are they suppressing the cortisol, but they're also replenishing glycogen, which is going to keep cortisol suppressed for longer throughout the recovery process from your workouts. So it's kind of like if you're going to do them, make the most out of them concept. And then you have your CKD, which is a cyclical ketogenic diet. Now for people that just during their work week, they don't want to worry about where they're going to get their apples or their soup. They just want to eat their meat and their egg bites, and they have a routine during the work week. This is a better option. You do keto Monday through Friday, and then on Saturday and Sunday you do low carb. All low carb means so you keep your fats under 100 grams and you try to keep your carbs at 100 grams. So instead of like 50 total and over 100, you just bring the fat down to under 100 and you bring the carbs up to 100. Super simple. Just shift it, right? Just shift that energy balance, keep protein constant. And for some people, depending on their routines, this is a much more sustainable approach. They still get their glycogen replenishment, albeit it's a little bit prolonged from some of their workouts throughout the week, but they still get some of those benefits. I've seen both work for clients. I've seen both do wonders for clients. So it's more about like what works best for you, what makes you feel best, what makes you recover best from the gym, what's best on you mentally, things like that. I know that was a lot. And the 8 minutes that we talked. If you have any questions at all, let me know. I would love to talk to you more about this. I appreciate you. If you haven't liked or subscribed to the channel already, please do. Share this with somebody that just is frustrated and confused and lost and needs some direction. I'd love to help them get there. Y'all have a good day. See you in the next one.